the architecture. Moving through that to see that in a more explicit way, but yet still these images jammed together. Making very obvious pairings, which, you know, I think sometimes in editing this, in another example, I would have seen that. For me, this would have been an obvious, just repetitive editing. But because I wanted this sort of cinematic feel, sometimes repetitions help. I felt kind of helped in a jump cut sort of way. And then moving, through that, where a picture begins here and ends on this page. As we move into a section of the book, which for me was then after the action sequence, we start establishing our characters of our short film, and start meeting sort of the characters of this place, and then even a very cinematic visual way of like we're flying. You kind of imagine a dolly shot up over this wall that then transitions into the aerial shot as we zoom in to the city, and then down into the city, back down into the streets. Again, the repetition of the architecture theme, which is then reinforced by this pairing, which is an obvious pairing in terms of the silhouettes, but there's this other meaning with this graffiti on the wall, and then this, which is actually me, and a kind of whatever, a simple reference to my confusion of being in this place, which then is kind of visually sort of mimicked into this next hit again of the architecture, which then visually makes a link to this sort of surface again with the lines, which those lines and sort of the hidden face are then mimicked in a certain way with these lines and the hidden face, which then moves again to a similar portrait of our characters, again touching on the idea of the surfaces of the place, to this one where it's about another surface of the place. This is a refrigerator that's just all rusted out. And again, for me, like this is a picture that I don't think is such a fantastic picture, but it's about a connection somehow. Do this, still building on the characters. And then here I start to deal with still building with the characters, but in my mind I was introducing sort of another element, which is this idea of the sensuality of the place, but a sensuality that's also very violent, where the sensual and the violent sort of coexist. You're not sure if they want to fuck each other or fight each other. But Venezuela has it's a Latin American country and has this really strong sense of this sort of aggressive sensuality. To the overt sensuality. To another kind of sensuality of this place, which is sort of luxurious and about another kind of surface that maybe in some distant way touches on ideas of wealth and opulence or whatever. To this page, which is another one of these just intuitive. I can't really give you an explanation of why these pictures go together, but there's some kind of jump cut feeling to them. This is actually my Kudelka reference. And again, here are the surfaces. This is a wall, a mural on a wall that I photographed these people as from a moving car as I was going by them, two guys waiting on a bus, which for me also repeated this sensation of being in this car that we started out in the beginning. We're going on this journey through this place. So for me, it was about still touching on this idea of kind of seeing this place in passing, and also the surfaces, the architecture. And then this is like probably the weirdest thing in here that may or may not work. But I sort of made, before I made the book, I made this little video of the place where I used this cloud transition of fading of these clouds blending together, where it felt like you were flying through the clouds to transition to another place. So I tried to recreate this sense again here. It may not work, it may be a total failure or whatever, but it was an attempt. A lot of what I learned in this book is the limitations of print, by the way. A lot of ideas that I had that I wanted to try to do in terms of cinema, in the end it's a book and there are limitations. But my idea was to have this sort of transition, to transition us to another place where I was going to deal with the agriculture on the outskirts of the place. But also, as I started dealing with the agriculture, to deal with the what I thought of as the backbone of the revolution, this idea of the industrialization and the strength and the power of the revolution. And at this point, I was actually making some pictures in a conscious way to sort of reference, propaganda type images with almost had these Rodchenko ideas in my head of like big glorious industry pictures, to kind of touch on this idea of just, work will make us strong kind of